The Houston Fire Department recently lost a firefighter to COVID-19. I was asked to make something to be auctioned off at a benefit in honor of his memory. A firefighter friend suggested a Maltese Cross, so this is what I came up with. Stick around if you'd like to see how I designed and made it. We'll start with the US flag file that I use as the basis for all my flags. You can find this file on my website, as well as a video showing how I made it here on this channel. Links to both of these will be below in the comments. Let's import the Maltese Cross so we can use it as the extents of our modified flag. Ideally, you will want to use an SVG file that's either in the public domain or one that you pay for the usage rights. We only need the outside lines, so everything inside can be deleted. Here, I'm removing these outer pieces, then selecting everything in the center by crossing the graphic with a marquee. Next, I want to place the center of the Maltese Cross at the right edge of the union. You can eyeball this if you want, but here's a neat trick to get it exact. To make this work, I need a rectangle that's the size of the union. I'll draw a rectangle that's larger than I need, and using the align features, move it to align with the top edge of the stripe below the union. Then repeat that operation to align the rectangle with the left edge of the shorter stripes. Now copy that rectangle and move the copy to the corner, letting it snap into place. Select both of these rectangles and do a Boolean intersection to give you the union. In order to center the cross, copy this new rectangle and move it to the right, snapping to the corner of the union. Then edit its nodes to move them to the left edge of the original rectangle. Now you have a shape that's twice the width of the union. Select the Maltese Cross, then this new enlarged rectangle. Use the Align tool to center the first selected object on the second. Using the Scale tool, we can set the height of the Maltese Cross to be the same as that of the flag, and its width will be automatically adjusted. Now, just use the Align tool to center the cross vertically with the stock. We're finished with these rectangles, so we can now delete them from our file. Next, select the Maltese Cross and do an offset to the outside to create new boundaries for our stripes. We can also delete the little leftovers left inside the little alleys, if you will, as we won't need them either. Duplicate that offset shape. You will need 6 total, 1 for each white stripe. Move these copies to lie directly on top of the original, snapping to the nodes to get an exact fit. Once they are all in place, select a boundary and one of the stripes. Then use the Boolean intersection function to create a stripe that extends off the edge of the cross. Repeat this for the other 5 stripes. Now we can remove the stars that are no longer needed. Ungroup the stars and delete those that lie completely outside the cross. To complete the design, let's group everything and move it to align with the left side of the stock. Finally, we can edit our stock size to be equal in width and height. Oops, the stock needs to be a ½ inch wider to account for the ¼ inch offset on both the left and right sides. There you go, our finished artwork ready for toolpaths. Select everything and ungroup it. Switch to the Toolpath tab and you'll see 2 that were set up in my starter file. I like to number my toolpaths and end their name with the end mill used. Double-click the first toolpath so you can make changes. Now highlight all the stripes. Then you can review the settings and click the Edit button in order to modify the depth per pass. Please leave a comment below if you would like me to create a video on how to optimize toolpaths in Carbide Create. When you click OK, the toolpaths will be updated to the shapes you've selected. Now double-click the second toolpath, review the settings, and then click OK to close it. Our final step is to create a new toolpath to cut out the Maltese Cross. Select the shape and choose Contour. Next, we'll select an appropriate end mill. Then edit the depth per pass, setting it to 1/4 inch, matching the end mill's width. Now that the tool is set, click Use Stock Bottom to set the depth equal to the stock settings in your project file. Make sure the toolpath settings is set to outside right. Finally, name the new toolpath. I chose to not use tabs since I typically stick my material down using the tape and super glue method. Don't forget to save your project. And next, save out the G-code for Carbide Motion. Here, I'm measuring out the size of the union, marking it on our blank material. I got these dimensions from Carbide Create. Next, I'll use a craft knife to cut a thin groove into the material. This will keep the dye from bleeding across the edge. I'll sand the surface to get a smooth finish before applying the water-based dye. I'll also moisten the surface to raise the grain before sanding a second time. Here I'm just scoring the lines again to make sure I didn't lose anything in the sanding process. As I apply the painter's tape, I'm using my fingernail to press the tape down into the groove made by the craft knife. The goal here is to have a crisp line for the edge of the blue. For this project, I chose to use RIT dye so I could still see the wood grain, yet had vibrant colors. When applying the dye, I didn't pay particular attention to the grain direction. I rubbed it in using small circular pattern and went back and forth as I worked it in. I also paid close attention to the taped edge, making sure the dye got down into the joint. Finally, I wiped off the excess dye, making sure the surface was well covered. After giving the blue dye ample time to dry, it was time to come back and remove the painter's tape. Look at that crisp edge. Scoring the joint with a craft knife really worked well. Now it's time to tape over the union so I can apply the red dye. Again, I made sure to press the tape down into the joint using my fingernail. The craft knife worked great to give me a perfect edge. I chose cherry red for this section of the piece. I was a little concerned that it might be too bright, but the color turned out to be perfect. Again, I wasn't overly concerned about grain direction. I just worked quickly so I could maintain a wet edge. Once I thought ample dye was on the surface, then I rubbed the excess off. I like to use my CNC to cut keyhole slots. It does a perfect job. You can see here that my dye job wasn't perfect, but in the end it won't matter. You can also see that my stripes did not end exactly at the edge of the union. I'll have to come back later and fix that. Obviously this is sped up. I would love to be able to cut stars at this speed. I made this project a couple months ago and have since learned to optimize my projects better. Now I run most tool paths with what equates to a roughing pass and a finish pass. Please leave a comment below if you'd like me to make a video showing my optimization process. Now my team of angry bees will work like a busy beaver to cut out the Maltese Cross. Here you can see I came back and cleaned up the edge of the stripes.